team. I don't know if anybody's in the sound booth. Bree. And so, thank you guys. And they came and did everything. And like I said, these guys exhausted themselves this summer. Some of them memorized upwards of 77 Bible verses, I think, this summer. Was it 77? 100. Oh, sorry. Wow. 100 Bible verses this summer. And which isn't an easy thing to do in 8 weeks, especially when your pastor is me and I work them nonstop. And don't, I'm not the kind of guy, I have to study my verses. Get to work. Study your verses at night before you go to bed. But they did so, and they worked really hard. And like I said at the beginning, I want to extend and really point out, not just the students that couldn't do it this year because of college or because of new jobs or because of the students from last year, but those that had full-time jobs, going to summer school, going and working on classes, doing stuff. Some of these guys are responsible for all of their siblings every day. So coming in and getting the hours in is not easy. And we read some pretty serious books. Second-year students this year read Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer in the old edition. So we had to sit down and try and explain. So we'd have these extensive classes that were supposed to be 45 minutes long, and I'm pretty talkative. They'd go like an hour and a half. And none of them were 2 hours, Gabby. Why you guys always exaggerate? And, and then another book, they did a book on, the first-year students did a book on habitudes, which is a really great book. And they just, in their book reports, somebody did a book report on Obadiah, I believe, was it, right? Right, Obadiah, right? Somebody didn't even know that was a book. And so we're just incredibly proud of them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to ask, the names that I call out first, I'm just going to call out the students that were able to come and give of their time this summer and participate as much as they possibly could. And so these are the ones that we want to acknowledge them and their effort and that did such a great job. So, and they had a full-time job. Like, one of them had to work, I don't know, how long did you do that night job where you worked all night? Like a week and a half? Yeah, in Cambodia, and it's pretty incredible. So Caleb, where am I, Jay, am I in front of something? Caleb, Jay, and Elijah. Yeah, step out. Yeah, okay. Caleb was working all night for a big portion. I want to just say this. Elijah and Jay both play football for their high schools. They would get up and go to football at 6 a.m., come to Master's Commission at 9:30, straight from Mass. Trust me, these guys, we all know they came straight from football practice. Straight from football practice to sit in class and study, and go through the verses and their dramas. In some cases, go to football practice afterwards and go to football camp, still come back. It's not an easy thing to do. They were incredible. I just wanted to acknowledge that they did such a good job. Okay. And I want to say the first-year students that completed, these guys passed their program this summer. Can I have Sarah Mitchell and Maria Harrison stand out? Not easy, but they worked really hard. They passed their programs. And then I'm going to ask, you guys did a great job. Now, second year, these are those who came back and did a second year and helped with leadership. Gabriella Burse, Autumn Webb, Savannah Barron, Ryland Trader, Bella Rodesta, and Rebecca Lewis step forward. These guys completed enough of their program to pass. It wasn't easy for them to do. They worked really, really hard in book reports and all the different things that they did. And we could do that. I don't know why it's humming, but you can turn me down a little bit. I know how to project. Thank you guys. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do is in Kings 13, you find a beautiful story about Elijah at the end of his life, Elisha at the end of his life. And in the story in Kings, it talks about Israel and the fact that it turned its back on God and that it had betrayed God in that chapter. Like at this point in the chapter, they betrayed God. And so basically, the paragraph basically describes Israel in its own country, living as a foreigner in its own country because it had betrayed God. And there was this young remnant, okay, that had risen up and said, we want to honor God. We want to honor God, and this is what we want to do. And so Elijah, on his deathbed, brings the young remnant into his room, and he takes an arrow. And he tells them, shoot that arrow out the window, right? And when he shoots the arrow out into the land, he says, I've done this because God will overcome your oppressors. And I love this story that God will overcome an army, the oppressors of the God's chosen people. And when I read that chapter, I think, man, this is us. This is our country. This is our country where we're beginning to experience life that as Christians we're foreigners in our own land, in the sense where we're not allowed to do or say or be involved in certain things. Right? I just read an article in Southern California, Greg Laurie, who's been running an unbelievable ministry for a very long time. It preaches the gospel. I think on average, Harvest America, 10,000 people get saved every year in California through this crusade. And he had billboards up that just had a picture of him preaching, and in the pictures, he's got a Bible in his hand. And they complained, and the state came and made him pull it all down. Every single advertisement had to come down, even though they paid for it, because there was a Bible in the picture, right? In California. And I just think, this is where we're headed because we turned our back on God. Until there is a young remnant, who's willing to rise up and say, I don't care what they call me, I don't care what they say about me, I'm going to live the way God has called me to live. I'm going to glorify him in a manner that pleases him and not man, like Daniel, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, like those who are willing, even at the cost of being alienated or in prison. They said God is first. And there are 3 students that really stuck out to us that we think went above and beyond every area, whether it was serving, whether it was scripture, whether it was just in every area. Reagan and I felt like these are the 3, almost from each area. But I've asked Uche, Tess, will you guys come up? Because I got these arrows that we want to present as gifts. And would Sarah step forward? Bella, step forward. And Tess, you have Bella's. Austin, will you step forward? And it isn't, I believe that God has called the Refuge to change the nation through our youth. I believe it. I believe that God is calling on everybody. And the word reminds us that few will choose that path. Right? Not everybody is willing to embrace the sacrifice that not that God would require of us, but that the world will require of us when we choose to follow God. And this year, you guys just, every time, killing yourself studying, making sure to get caught up. Here early, doing everything. Austin, you didn't finish your curriculum because I put you to work and you had to work a job to raise money so that you could go back. This guy was doing management at the golf course at 5 a.m. I made him go to Cambodia. I know that you don't think that that's a big make, but I made him go. It was almost as if I was trying to keep you from but you did everything. You served. Everything I asked of you, you did it. And you worked really hard. I'm so excited for you to go back to a second-year master's commission. And I worked him so hard that he's going to have trouble paying. So if you want to give money towards his master's commission program for this upcoming year, you are welcome to do so. That would be really great. There's actually a flyer back there to do that. But I just want to say that I just want to do that. When we go to Benny's awards assembly, they always step out, and they say, these guys really represented these things. I thought, if they could do that, we can do that. Amen? Right? And I just want to say, I'm so, Reagan and I are both really proud of you and impressed, and proud of everybody who worked their tails off, who said, and did everything you can, every aspect. Savannah, you killed it today. You did such a great job. And Jay, who is so creative, and he paralyzed was kind of something that he worked really, quit mumbling, but that drama, yes, I know, right? He did a great job. He not only preached it well, but he helped create it. These guys did had so much work and helped. Rebecca, you did good. Maria. And can I say something? Maria, step up for a second, because it was not easy for her. I want to say something. You might not realize this, but one of the hardest things to speak or preach is a funny skit. It's not easy. You know, I'm going to say something serious and they're going to do something so stupid. You know? You did a great job of making that. Yeah, I just want to say, it's a big deal. So, I just want to say, if we could, I'll close in prayer and then let you guys come up and say what a great job your kids did and everything. I just want to say thank you for sharing them with us, but more importantly, thank you for making the sacrifices to let them pursue their relationship with Christ. Thank you for, I'm telling you, I know it might not seem like it, and those of you who are smarter than I have probably quit watching the news. But when you watch the news, it can be discouraging, but if you're not watching, you're not realizing that it's worse than they say it is for kids today. And like what they face in public school, what they face online, anybody over the age of 35, it's impossible for us to even comprehend what it's like for people who don't like you, for people who are afraid of you, for people who may want to harm you verbally, to have access to you every second of the day. Right? And that's just one aspect of it. Not only that, the enemy, and what it wants to indoctrinate our kids, has access to our kids every second of the day. The average teenager today spends 7 hours a day in front of a screen. 7 hours a day in front of a screen. Because you were willing to let them take this program, some of you even gave financially to help them take this program, because you were willing to do that, you changed their summer where that number spikes. And instead of being in front of the screen all summer long, they were in the Word, they were praying, they were serving, not just in this city, but in California, and in some cases all the way in Cambodia, and they're not even done yet. With Mexico coming up, these guys are just getting started. And I just want to say, it doesn't happen without a church with your hearts, right? If your church didn't have a heart to reach kids and to see them follow Jesus, then we wouldn't be able to do this because it costs a lot of money. And you guys are willing not just to give. It's not just that you give, it's that you're willing to let us spend on those things. You let us put a skate park in. You're not knocking. I've never had somebody bang on my door and tell me, I want something for our age, right? Nobody's ever demanded that we stop reaching out into this community. And it's not an easy thing for us to do. And to be fair, one of the reasons why we're taking, or to be honest, one of the reasons why we're taking a sabbatical is because the hardest part of our job is watching kids get sucked away by the world. Watching them. When we did the drama, Paralyzed, where, we set the kids down and said, in a normal church, we'd watch this skit and be like, man, that was really powerful. For the Refuge, that's as real as it gets, right? We have had kids get shot because they picked the wrong group of friends, right? We've had kids get raped because they picked the wrong group of friends. We've had, that's not something, and to watch it and know, that's why the Refuge is here in this city, to be a light, to reach out. And the hardest part about that is, not every kid you fall in love with falls in love with Jesus. And you watch them walk away, you watch them, and it breaks your heart. And it's hard to do. But we're going to keep doing it because it's what God's called us to do. And this group of teenagers, and all of them, those that didn't get to come, those that had too much to do this summer to commit, this is what gives us the strength and energy. Remember, this is why we do it, because some of these kids on the stage are going to change this world. If not all of them. All of them. And so I just want to say, heartfelt, thank you so much for letting me do that. Thank you so much for not complaining about the bathrooms not being clean, because you know that I'm doing the things that God's called us to do when it comes to reaching these kids. And if you would, please give them one more round of applause as we get ready to pray.